Hey, Fitzy here, back at the game with another one. I got a couple of small fenders here. Yeah, I'm over 6 foot. I got a couple of fenders here off a 68 Impala, and I had to weld up the body side molding holes in it, and I found a couple of small holes, and I used a cotton butt to repair them. Stick around. So, here's my next little hobble, okay? What's the best way to describe this? People talk about bringing in rust-free panels, okay? This is a rust-free panel, okay? Around here, these cars, this is from, first of all, it's from a 68 Chev Impala. So, you know, it come from, I don't know where it came from exactly, but someone got it here and they're planning on using it on the vehicle, but it's not mint, okay? Right off the bat, the body side moldings, their car never had it. So, and also down here there's rust. But back from back here, that's a rust-free panel there, buddy. Huh? Well, anyway, I found that. And I got a couple of small holes along here. And then the front end has been damaged. Okay? And there's some filler and everything on that there. All cracked up. It's been on it a long time. So what I got to do, I got to strip that off, see what's underneath that. I'm willing to find out now there's going to be damage on there, and it's going to have the old-fashioned holes or something, and now already plucked out and just filled right over. It's going to be something like that, I'm willing to say. But what I got to do with this fender is going to weld up these holes here. I got to do any holes or rust in these fenders. So I got holes along here I got to weld up, and I got holes on the wheel wells here that got to be welded up, because we don't know if there's a chrome molding going back on the vehicle. This is going on. If there is, they might be in a different location, but to be safe, I'm going to weld them up anyway. And there was a molding down here. Don't know if the car came with it, so I'm going to weld them up, and I'm going to put a patch in that there. So it's a quick little hobble, and I'm just going to go ahead now and walk you through it. I got some holes here. I'm going to show you how I welds them up, and we'll go from there. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead now and start stripping down and get all that filler off the front of it, see what we got. Grind off all these spots, find everything that got to be welded up, and start there. Time to make a mess. So you can see I got some repairs to do there. I'm going to do that one last. I got a small hole there, and I got a couple of holes along here I got to weld up. They're small enough that I might be able to just get them. I'll put a piece of brass behind them and weld them. Up here in the front now is quite interesting. The damage was done to it somewhere along the line. It was done a long time ago, I can tell you that. There was a couple of holes drilled in it, plucked out. Old screwdriver trick, the old dent puller. I got one of them there in my toolbox. And then it was hammered out. You got to realize, I'm going to say the body work was done on this 68. I'd say it was probably done in the early 70s. Just by looking at the lacquer paint and everything on it. People talks about paint and everything on cars and rust and stuff like that. This car, if you look at it, okay, one of the biggest issues you got with these cars here, look, that's all's on this car from factory. There's a black coating and a green coating, that's it. There's nothing else on this car. There's nothing on that's lacquer, and to me that's extremely porous. In terms of it's not very thick, and that's what a lot of these metallic colors were. And they had and the finish on them wasn't the best on them on these old cars. You see a lot of guys restoring cars today, putting metallic colors on them, doing them base clear. To me, that don't represent what the car was, because paint jobs on the 60s cars were nowhere near what today's cars were. And every time you come across an original painted car that's not been molested and still has original paint on it, it's quite cool to see and watch how it was painted and whatnot. Usually these had a duller finish on them. They had a shine to them, yes, but like a lot of the lacquer and everything used to be able to buff right out on them, and you know, you get a nice shine and everything on it, but they were never really buffed from factory. They always had an orange peely look to them and whatnot, right? But anyway, enough rambling on again. So the repairs are done here. All I'm doing to this car, to these panels, is I got to do all the welding on them. So I'm going to weld up all the holes, weld up the panel down here. I have another one there I got to do, another fender as well. So I got 2 front fenders I got to get done. I want to get these done. So I'm going to go ahead now and start welding up these holes here. I'm going to do all the easy stuff first, weld this up along here. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to dolly this a bit more, see if I can get a hammer and everything in behind it. See if I can straighten it up a bit better than what it is. I don't want to go getting too deep into it because some of these repairs might be harder to get at. But if I can hammer them out and work them better, I'll do that. So I'm going to start with just welding up the easy stuff first. So I'm going to go down here and start welding up all these holes in the wheel wells. So now I'm going to weld up these ones here. This one here has a brace behind it, so I can't get at it with the piece of copper. The hole in the back was too small, so I'm just going to weld that one around. It's pretty thick there because there's 2 braces there. These ones here, all I'm going to do is I got this piece of brass. I'm going to hold it behind it and weld to the brass. That way it doesn't fall through and gives strength around the holes. A lot easier than just trying to weld it all around. That one's going to be tricky. You'll see the difference from welding this one. I'm going to go to weld this one. So I got all the holes up around here welded, and I got all these welded up here. I'm letting them cool naturally, okay? I'm not going to try to cool them off or nothing. Just going to let them come back to what they originally were, right? You see me use the piece of brass in the back side of it. I never done the front one here because there's a low spot here. I want to try to hammer this out, so I'm going to work on hammering this up here now, and dollying this a bit better, see if I can get this here shaped up a bit better. And then all I got left to do is I got a couple of holes here I got to weld up. So, well, and I thought I had the camera on. I had to dolly up all this section down here. Just had a hard knock up here after dollying a bit more. I had to do some welding down on the bottom side here. And think, I thought I had the camera on, never had done. Anyway, I got all that dollied up, just hammer and dollied it and stuff like that. And I had a weak edge over here, so I welded it up to give it strength. Up here in front, there was a knob of brass because someone had done a repair on it and welded up with brass. There's been a number of brass repairs on this, so this was done really early. I'm going to take that out of there. I went and hammering this out now after poking a hole in that there. So I'm going to haul it out and weld that up, weld up these 2 holes here and grind it all up. And that'll be it for that. I'm going to weld up that hole there. So I'm going to go ahead now and get them all grinded up. And get that all glued up. What I'm going to end up doing there, I'm going to end up drilling that out to a larger hole. Put a larger piece in there. So anyway, I'll get everything else welded up here and I'll leave that one to last. And we'll come back and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that. Might be wondering what I'm grinding here. This is just the back side of those holes that were in the fenders. So I got all them grinded down. Just grinded them off with a 24 grit disc. MIG welder, again, 023 wire, CO2 gas, nothing special. Settings, it has them turned down for the metal here. Different welders, different settings. Okay. So now all I got left to weld up on this here, I got a patch down here I got to weld up. But first things first, I want to get up here and get this straightened away. I got this all welded up here in front, grinded off. The holes that were there are gone now. And of course it was bad, the front here, it was cracked up where they pounded on enough, so I welded it all up and then regrounded and shaped it and got all that done. Here, I got a crease down through here, and a dent here, and a dent here, and a dent here, and there was brass right here. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead, cut a full piece out of that. Put a large chunk in there. That'll solve all these problems here. If you look at how much damage that's done to that, it's all damage down through here. I'm just going to cut that all out because the brass was put in there to start with. So I picked up a scrap tin over the bin. I'll just put that across that there now like that, shape it. So shape like that there. I'll do the cut and butt on that. The piece of metal still wasn't fitting properly and needed a small crown added to it. So I used this technique to actually put a little crown in it so it would fit nicer. If you noticed on this one here, I worked from one end to the other. I didn't work my way around the patch. It's such a small piece, it's best to work across the patch, do the top, do the bottom, do the top, do the bottom, like so. I ended up tacking the 2 corners on this here and then cut the entire piece out. It was a lot easier because the panel wouldn't move very much to get it to fit, so I had to do the full cut on everything, but I held it in place with 2 tack welds. there you have that little repair done. Just a simple little repair done with the cotton butt. I used the air grinder with an old used discount because it was smaller and easier to control, right? You could probably use a small die grinder or something like that and use a small blades or something on it if you want to get small patchwork done. But that's just same process. It's just so you're using smaller tools, the smaller zip blades and stuff like that to do it. But just same thing. It's just that where's a smaller patch, you got to watch the heat, okay? Because you're welding around a small area like here, you're putting a lot of heat in the front corner of this. Now this is a pretty structural, sound piece, so you can get away with a lot. So got that done. Got one more piece doing this fender now, and I'm done with that fender. This here now is what we're up against next. This one here. What I'm going to do here first is I'm going to come right to the edge of this now, come down here and blindly cut out a square hole just to see how bad this spot is. Because usually when it comes to rust like this here, when you're making a patch, go about an inch more, and then like an inch more and an inch more. That should get you out of the rust area. Like just cutting straight right to the edge of it, this could be rusted into here on the back side of it, okay? So always give yourself an inch, but I'm just going to come very close to it now, just cut it out so I can get it out and size up. I can turn the panel upside down and actually see how bad the rust is. So I got it all cut out. Here's the piece here. All right, I cut the piece out of it, and you can see how rusty it was on the back side. Okay, then I trimmed off a bit more till I found some decent metal to go by around the side of it there. And I turn around now, I got this all cut out, and what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to clean this up on the back side here and put some paint on this here. I'm going to drown some paint. I don't get carried away. A lot of people ask me about it. You can use all kinds of things, blasted, rust converters and all that type of stuff. But the one thing you find about old cars, okay, you can treat this here, but I can guarantee you right here there's rust, okay? Right here there's rust in the back side, and there's only surface rust. A lot of these old cars got rust everywhere on them, surface rust. It's just a different type of rust. Just keep the moisture out of it and slow it down, stuff like that. It doesn't rust out, okay? Some of these cars had rust on them right from, the first couple of months they've been on the road, because a lot of these cars were not painted on the inside, and the paint on them, as you could tell, wasn't a lot on them, okay? If there was this much on the outside, you can only imagine what was on the inside, and a lot of this stuff was not even painted. So none of this up here is painted, and there's a haze of rust on it, and that could be there for 100 years, and it'll never affect it, okay? It doesn't grow, especially when a lot of these cars now are being restored and are being looked after. They're not used as daily drivers. This stuff occurs from people from a time in the life of this car when it was a daily driver. It was used every day, it was parked outside, used in winters, salt and all that type of stuff. But this day and age, when you come across one of these old cars like this now, it's stored in the garage, it's parked, it's probably not driven on rainy days, and if it is used a lot, it's only used during the summer months. Like, you don't see fellas driving a lot of this stuff anymore in the winter. So that was always the case of it. Here in Newfoundland, fellas that store cars in the wintertime and drive them all summer, they last forever, but the winter kills them, okay? So I'm just going to give this a quick clean up now and get ready. I cut out the piece. So I got the piece here all cut, and I shaped it, just put a bit of curvature in it. That fits there right nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all ready in there and cut that out. My plan is here to do this a little bit different. I'm going to do the cut and butt along here, along here, and along here. But I'm going to do a cut to fit over here because it's going to be hard to get the piece out of it. And I'm going to remove this section first. I'll mark it, trim this out, cut the corners up, and then I'll have something that I can lay it against. And then I can do the cut and butt over along this here and along the bottom here. So let's get this cleaned up and get some paint on it. So I went ahead, I cleaned all that up, and I got some rust paint put on it. Nothing fancy, okay? It's a good rust paint. I just drowned it in there, put lots of paint in there, okay? Then I went ahead, I took the piece and laid it where I wanted it, and I scribed it. You can see the marks there. What I'm going to do is I know how far down I'm going, I know how far up I'm going. I'm going to cut this piece here out of it altogether and remove it. And then I'm going to turn around and leave the rest of it here, so that way I can take it out from over here. See, this side here is on the back side, we can get at it. So I'm going to leave that there so I got something laid against it, and I'll butt weld it in along there, along that section there, and then I'll turn around and do the cut and butt along here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead now, get this here trimmed out. So I went ahead, I trimmed out the back side here, got that all cut up. So now, all I got to do now is just lay this in place here, butt that up against that there, and tack weld that around, and then I can start working my way around welding that in. So there you have it, all cut and butt. As you can see, that piece was right there, and by cutting this section out made it a lot easier from the paneling behind. You could probably haul this piece out if it was attached to it, but it would have made it extremely hard to push in on this here with a panel behind it. So I removed it, and so that made life a lot easier, and that piece came out with these. So then I went ahead and got all that cut off, cut and bought, and cut her a bit wide down here in the corner. That's minor, that usually happens. And I had to recut it here because I wasn't happy with the height of it. So I re-welded that again. So now I'm going to go ahead now and weld all this up and get it ready for grinding. I figured I'd stop here and point something out. A lot of people over the years have talked about corners. You should never have corners in butt welding and doing sheet metal work because it's just, you know, it's a spot and it always has troubles with heat and stuff like that. The trick to welding corners is not to weld them, okay? Work your way back to the corners. What I end up doing is I weld around here and I'll skip the corner, weld around here, skip the corner, weld around here, skip the corner. And the reason for that is because there's too much heat in this corner, okay? So I'll come back here and I'll weld here and I'll weld here next time, okay? And then I'll come back and I'll weld here and I'll weld here. So I'm just working across that. Like, all you gotta look at is a weld like so, okay? You got the weld there and a weld there. Okay, they're on either side of that circle, which is roughly where you're trying to distance apart, okay? When you get into the corners here, you can see what you're running into. You got a lot of area there that got to be welded. And you can see where my points are to. One here and one here. I'm staying away from my corners. Just work back here. You would think, just weld up here and weld across here, that'll be fine. The problem with it is that every time you put heat in this corner, there's going to be an abundance amount of heat right here, and that's where them low spots come from that a lot of people talk about. This corner will drop because there's too much heat in this corner. Don't go putting heat in your corners. That's it. Just come up here, weld to here, skip, go over to here. When he comes up here, you weld to here, skip, come over to here. Eventually, you'll get to the corner, okay? And you'll just have to do some touch-ups along the way later on to do the corners. So that's a little trick for keeping the heat out of the corners. There you have it. I had to weld it up a couple of times, but I got it all straightened away. Right, all this kind there, around there now. I turn around and I grind the back side of it there, just a little spot where it's sticking out. But you can see, can't see the corners. No corners. Just taking my time. Now, is this absolutely perfect? No, because you could probably put more time into this to get this perfect. And what I mean by perfect is that if I took a straight edge here now and laid it across this here, you can see up here, that's pretty good all the way down through there. But there's a little low spot, you can see the shadow up there. See it there? That's fine, that's best kind, that is. Don't ever be afraid of having to worry about having to use a bit of body filler and stuff like that, and you're expecting, some guys out there wants the metal finish everything and have it perfect, okay? Yeah, okay, go ahead, that's fine. You don't know how many hours got to be put into something like this here. This is done here now. There's probably another few hours going to be put in to try to get this all just so perfect, and you're still going to have to fill it in the end anyway. I don't mind a little bit of a low spot here, a little small bit of a wrinkle there. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The biggest problem you got with metal work when it comes to doing rust repairs and stuff like that is having corners and edges and stuff like that. This way here, there's absolutely no corners. All I'm doing is I'm filling a little low spot that's on this panel. Now that's it. I haven't got to worry about high spots and corners and thick edges and stuff like that. That's one of the main reasons why I do all this cut and butt and for doing rust repair, is to make the filler work a lot easier. So I'm done with that fender there now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to haul out this fender and get it cleaned up and see what kind of a mess that's in. So this fender, it's got a bit of surface rust. I'm not going to worry about it. This do have the moldings in it. These moldings were a little bit different, so I got to weld them up. Don't see me any amount of work on this fender that I can find as of yet, other than these holes. Got to remove a clip there. I do have filler here, and I do seem to be a bit of surface rust down here. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to take the grinder now. There is filler on this. I don't know what the deal is with it. I noticed the Impala's here, and she had something else, so I got to weld up these two holes, but the rest of these I'm leaving because it wasn't Impala that was going on, but the other fender never had these two holes, so I'm going to weld two of them up. And of course you got the wheel opening ones, so I'll weld them up as well. And I'll clean this off. So when I get this all cleaned off, we'll have a look, see what we got to work with. Well, now this takes me back. What you see here, this is auto body filler that's been put on the car, blocked off, and this is what they call pink putty. Buddy. There's some fellas around used to love using this stuff, and they used to put it on like filler. Wasn't meant for that, but a lot of fellas did it. This car here was done like it. And also from looking at it over here, some guys used to turn around and what they used to do is they thin it right out with thinners and they'd spray it on the car, and it was like a primer, and they could actually be able to make it right smooth and everything. It was wild what fellas used to do with this pink putty, but it shrank. That's what's on the go with this. You can see it peeling off here and everything. Look, it's peeling off and everything. That was always the issue with pink putty. It was something they used a lot of. Some fellas got carried away with it. But I figured I'd show you that before I cleaned it all off. That's pretty wild. I haven't seen that on any of the panels in a long time. It was something they used way back when. I used it when I first got in the trade in the early 80s. And I hated it because it took too long to dry. And like, you know, you put a skin vid on it, was fine. You had to put heat lamps on it and then you blocked it out. But some guys used to do what they call the overnight coat. They put it on like that and then they block it out the next day. But the stuff is lacquer based and it used to shrink something fierce. And 6-8 months down the road, all the body work looked right wavy and everything, right? It was meant for pinholes and fellas were using this filler. Cool stuff. Anyway, I'll move on now, finish grinding that off, clean that off. I did find a few holes down here, so I'm going to have to put a patch down here, same as the other side. Other than that, I just got to see what's underneath this filler. So here's what we got. 50-year-old damage, by the looks of it. Repaired with the old dent puller. Pull it out with screws and whatnot. And repair the damage. Where's my old dent puller? That there was the old tool of trade. Look, yeah, I have one and I've used it many times. It was a time in the trade you never had a lot of stuff to work with, and you may do what you had. But that's the old tool that they used for pulling dents out with. You just a replaceable screw you put in the back in the end of it, drill a 1/8 hole, screw it in, pull it out, and that's what it is. Had a counterweight on it that you just pull back and forward on, pull the dent out. That just, you come up and pound it on that there, and that's how you put weight on it to make it work. But that's how them dents were repaired many years ago. So other than that, I got a bit of damage on the edge here that I'm going to have to address. Trying to straighten this up a bit better than what it was. And it was just, I know this type of repair was done on the car, and you couldn't get it at the back side of it. I can get it at the back of it now because it's off the car. So I'm going to turn around and try to tidy this up better than what it is and repair it. So the problem I got with this repair on this car is that I don't have the door to go by. So I'm going to repair it as best I can, and then the fender will actually have to be fine-tuned when it gets fitted on the car. And then this section here will have to be worked to fit the door on the car. It's not a repair that you do off the car. It's the one you do on the car, and all I have is 2 fenders on this car. So I'm going to go ahead now, get all these holes welded up on this here, and get it to the point that all I got left to do is just patch down here and get this fender done. So I went ahead and I got all them welded up. I took my time. These were larger holes. I welded half the hole, let it cool down, welded the other half of the holes. What I did there, come over here and I welded up these dents here. All these ones here where they pulled the dents out, I got them welded up. And the edge was over here was grinded off pretty thin, so I went and put some welding into it to try to put some strength back into the corner. Put a lot of heat in it, welded the corner up. It was burning holes in it very easily, but that's the common occurrence when they do a lot of repairs. They grinded it way too thin along the edges. I'd learned from my own experiences, you stay away from edges, okay? But then so I said, while I was waiting for that there to cool off, I'd come down here and I'd cut this off. Look. Few pinholes in it. Look what was in the fender, look. Oh, she was full. And you never know what's inside these fenders. It's like opening up a Christmas present. What's in there, I wonder? Anyway, I'll get this all cleaned up now, get it all blown out, get all dirt out of it, grind it all up. And I think I'm going to take out more of the bottom here, because when I cut this off, the grinder was going through it very quickly. And you can tell when it's thin, because the grinder slips through it, so I'm probably going to come down here another inch and then cut it off and then make a piece for that. So I'll get this all cut off, or cleaned up, cut off, and ready to put a patch in it. As you can see, I got it all grinded off. Everything is done there now. Over here, I just grinded the edge here. I put a nice strong edge on it, grinded it, so that they got something there that'll actually can work with. There's not much more I can do with this, because you need the door to make the alignment right. And I'm going to leave it alone for the point that I haven't got a door and I haven't got the car. So whoever's going to do the repairs on the car can straighten this up. So now we're down here to this spot. I went and cut it all out, cleaned it all up, and got it painted. It's quite interesting that fellas have come to me over the years and say, I got a small hole in my car. There's a little small hole, it's only about an inch around the round on the bottom of my fender. This is the type of stuff you deal with, right? Fellas will come over here and they got this little small hole, and this is what he ends up with. And that's a common occurrence many times over the years. Any hole that you got, could be, especially if you've got ones that are like 2 or 3 inches apart, that whole section's gone, right? But every hole is there is usually 4 inches got to be done around it in any way, shape, or form in order to repair it. But I got the piece cut out here. I got it all shaped. There's just another piece of that shelving that I got there, 18 gauge. I'm going to leave the coating on the back for protection, and I'm going to fit that in there now. I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other fender. I'm going to scribe it over here and cut it to fit, and then I'm going to do the cut and butt over along here and down along here and get that in there. It's the same process before, so I'm going to go ahead now and get that done. There you have it. Another one done. Another simple repair, just using the cut and butt, nothing fancy. So, you know, a couple of quick patches, very easy to do. And, you know, you can basically use it on almost any type of repair when it comes to rust, right? Sometimes you can buy the replacement panel for these fenders and stuff like that. And I find, especially on these cars here, these Impalas, this edge here never looks right, okay? This here usually is a bit tighter, or it's got more of a roll to it. And I always prefer, if I had a patch panel for this one here, I'd only put in what needed to be put in if I was going to use that. But as you can see, I just needed flat steel to repair this, right? And, you know, it's always an option. You can always go out and buy the full panel. But if you're buying the full panel, like, do not go up here. If the panel comes up to here, do not replace it all the way up to there. Only replace what's gone, okay? You want to put all new metal in the car is fine, but what you're going to end up doing then, by replacing the panel up here, what you're going to end up doing, you're going to have all this here full of filler, okay? So you have new metal, but it'll be full of filler, okay? So there's a drawback to that there, because you got to fill wherever your patch is too. So anytime you come to a body line like this here, try to keep a repair below it. Keep it as small as you can get it, but don't scrimp on it. You know, wherever the hole is to, go an inch or two outside of it, and then do the repair that way. Take it as close to the edges as you possibly can. Try not to go over the edges, because then when you start going over these edges, then you start fooling up alignments and everything on the fenders and doors and rockers and stuff like that, right? But yeah, but that's 2 simple little repairs, or 3 simple little repairs, and a few holes welded up. I used the piece of brass on them as well. So that fender is done, and that fender in there is done. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this one here. Hope the tips were good, and until next time. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, hit like and share. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit subscribe down the bottom of the page. If you want to donate to the channel, down below there's a button, Super Thanks button. If you want to click on that, it'll take you through the motions of making donations to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. We also got merchandise. Pop over to Fitzy'sFabrications.com and check out our merchandise. We have hoodies, sweaters, t-shirts, and stickers. Lots to choose from. Thanks for watching. I cut off this piece here. It's bigger than the hole. Okay. Put a bit of a crown on it. Just roll it, just bend to a small bit. Go ahead. So it actually fits the shape of the fender. Hey bud, what are you doing? Huh? Yeah. In for the inspection here. Yeah. Make sure everything's alright. What are you doing? Yes, bud. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can't get